Mars in Aries, it's definitely the most harmoniously synergistic combination of any planet in any sign. Mars is masculinity, Aries is masculinity. Mars is fire, Aries is fire. Aries is cardinal, Mars is independent and adventurous and goes off in its own direction. Aries is ruled by Mars, Mars is Mars. Everything about Aries and Mars goes well together. But let's highlight some of the most well-preserved, recorded effects. So in order to do that, we're going to look at three primary synergies between Mars and Aries. And why three? It's because both of them really at the root represent masculinity. And masculinity has three basic components to it. The one component of masculinity is self-reliance or independence. The second component of masculinity is strength. And the third component of it is something I call inception. So let's take a look at them one by one. The first synergy that we'll look at in this video is the synergy of strength. Mars is the planet of strength because it's the planet of masculinity, and Aries is a sign of strength because it's a sign of masculinity. So what do you expect if you have Mars in Aries? Well, the native is strong. Not just physically strong, but also brave. And what does that do? If you're strong and you're brave, it has a very interesting effect, is that you don't really need to be beat around bushes. You don't really feel the need to hide. So an interesting side effect of the strength synergy between Mars and Aries is that the natives with Mars and Aries tend to be honest. And what you mean by this honesty is open, direct. So it's the kind of honesty that comes from masculinity, which is strength. It's the kind of honesty that comes from strength. The next synergy, to explain the interpretations of Mars and Aries, is that Mars is the planet of inception, and Aries is the sign of inception. It's the first zodiac sign. Inception means beginning things, initiating things. Like the male initiates the pregnancy. So this is the male quality as it gets things started. It doesn't really have patience. It doesn't really think about anything long term, but it has great explosive energy for getting something started. That's the nature of masculinity. Mars has it, Aries has it. When you put the two things that are alike together, you get good results. So if you have an inceptive planet in an inceptive sign, what kind of interpretations do you expect for this native, an inceptive person? Well, what does that mean? What kind of actual descriptions can we make of an inceptive person? Well, they start things. Right? They don't wait around and wonder if they should start yet. They get started. And so the side effect of that is that they'll seem a bit adventurous. They won't wait till they have all the Band-Aids in their pocketbook and the rubbing alcohol wipes and the emergency numbers on the phone. They just go out. They just start. But it's risky. Yeah, it's risky, but it's adventurous to be risky. It likes being risky. Mars in Aries gives that sense of it's okay to take a risk. It's okay to have an adventure. Let's go. I want to get there is also the motivating factor because of the cardinality of Aries and the cardinality which is inherent in Mars. Cardinality is I want to get there. I want to go somewhere. So Mars has this nature to hurry up because I want to get somewhere. And so that also comes across in a native who is very ambitious. I want to get somewhere in my life. You'll get that from Mars and Aries. Very passionate. Hurry up, let's go, let's do this. And goal-oriented. This is another trait of masculinity, is it's highly goal-oriented. It sees everything in terms of, did you reach the goal or not? So Mars and Aries, you'll get that in a good ways. They will have the intention to win. Mars and Aries intends to win. They have a mindset on a goal and they want to get it. So the characteristic of this native is that they're adventurous, ambitious, passionate, and intent on accomplishing their goals. The third synergy of Mars in Aries is the third aspect of masculinity, which is independence or self-reliance. So you have Mars being the independent, self-reliant planet, because it's the most masculine planet, and Aries being the independent, self-reliant, individualistic, freedom-loving sign, because it's the most masculine sign. So what do you expect when you have Mars in Aries? Simply, like, they're very independent. The native is very independent. What does it actually mean? Like, what kind of actual behavior will you see from that? Well, one thing, by being independent, that means that they don't rely on other people. So they won't really be taking help from other people, or they won't be following behind somebody else. They'll be more likely to get out first and get in the lead and have other people wind up following behind them. So Mars in Aries is a capable leader, or a person that winds up being in the leadership position often. Another practical effect of being independent is freedom. Mars and Aries people will value freedom a lot. They won't want to be limited or tied down or restricted by any of their commitments. And therefore they'll cultivate a life which includes a lot of personal freedom. Another permutation or effect of the independence thing is that Mars and Aries people, they're self-starters. Like, they're not following somebody else. That means that they're self-motivated. So they'll also seem to have a good sense of what we could also describe as willpower. Ambition can also have a similar effect or flavor as willpower. Mars and Aries native has that kind of thing that comes across as willpower or strong will. They do what they want. And they also are self-defining as another characteristic of freedom or independence. And if you're free and independent, then you define yourself. If you define yourself, then you're quite individualistic. And that explains all of the major things that the classic texts say about Mars and Aries. So now let's have a look at some actual people who are well known with Mars and Aries. Surprisingly or not, there's not that many well-known athletes. At least I didn't find a whole lot. Let's see, as we go through the rest of Mars and Taurus, Mars and Gemini, Mars and Cancer, let's find out which one has the lion's share of the athletes. But we do have on this list, at the top of the list, Cristiano Ronaldo. So at least there's one. And then we have a few actors and actresses on the list, and the type of the actor and actress is quite illustrative of what Mars in Aries represents. Angelina Jolie, very, very, very Marsy woman. Aishwarya Rai, Tyra Banks, they're all very individualistic, independent, doing their thing. And then the men, Russell Crowe, Russell Brand. I don't know if you would say he's an actor, but he fits in this entertainer category. Clint Eastwood. So these are really like manly men. And also some of them, like Russell Brand. Clint Eastwood is just like a walking Mars. Russell Brand is a very individualistic, independent, self-defining type of person. So a very good example illustrating the Mars and Aries nature. Then we have one politician, Lenin. So kind of a militaristic politician. Bernie Sanders, an independent kind of politician. Then we have a few musicians, Chopin, Prince, Iggy Pop. Why would Mars and Aries make somebody a good musician? It's not necessarily that Mars and Aries is giving them the musical part of their nature. You have to ask what their Venus is doing. And you have to ask what their moon is doing and stuff like that to find out why they have this musical talent. But why are they so, for example, like Iggy Pop, so punk? Or Prince, so individualistic and just doing things his way? Or just bold enough to go out and be on stage? You can get that from Mars. So it's, in their case, it's not going to be Mars and Aries. It's the defining primary thing in their chart. But it's part of the formula that lets them be confident enough to go out and be seen. Then I'll collect a few names that are sort of miscellaneous at the bottom. Steve Jobs, very ambitious. And also showing many of the traits of Mars and Aries. Very ambitious, very self-defining, etc. With Mars and Aries, let's take a look at for the people in slightly more detail. Angelina Jolie, I think, is a really, really, really good example of Mars and Aries and how it works in a female. And sure enough, if you open up her chart and look at it, you'll see that this Mars in Aries, in her case, is very prominent. It's in her 10th house with the first lord, aspecting the first house as a yoga karaka. So it's a very, very, very strong, in a whole bunch of Raja Yogas as well. So it's a very, very strong, positive Mars. It's very, very dominant in the chart. So hence you really see the qualities of an Aries Mars in this person. But interestingly, it's in Revati Nakshatra, which is giving energy towards parenting. And it's in Cancer Navamsha, or it becomes a little bit female. Clint Eastwood, first lord. So why again is Clint Eastwood so much like a walking Mars? It's not just because he has Mars in Aries, it's also because his ascendant is a Mars sign, Scorpio. So Mars is his first lord, and then it's in the 6th house all by itself. So when planets are alone, they become more clear and shine more clearly. And it's very close to, the only thing it's close to is Rahu, which just amplifies things. So it's a very amplified Mars due to its proximity to Rahu and its kind of center staginess, or it doesn't have neighbors, and being the first lord. And if it's in the 6th house, it will influence the first house as well. His nakshatra is Ashwini, not Revati, and it's in a fire sign in Navamsha, Sagittarius. Steve Jobs, very similar Mars to Clint Eastwood in its actual degree. It's also in Ashwini, Sagittarius, Navamsha. But for Steve Jobs, it's not the first lord, it's the 7th lord. And it's the 7th lord that's right on the cusp of the 7th house, the ending cusp. So it's really strongly aspecting 2nd house, 3rd house, and 10th house, because of the way his ascendant is configured as well. So you find that it's influencing his career a lot and his ambitions a lot and his money-making sense. 2nd house for money-making, 3rd house for ambitions, 10th house for career. And then finally we can look at Martha Stewart. Interestingly, it's quite similar to Clint Eastwood, except it's the only thing that's different in her case is it's not with Rahu. She also has a Scorpio ascendant with Mars in Aries in the 6th house, alone, without sharing that sign with any other planets. But it's not near Rahu, and it's in a different nakshatra. So hers is in Angelina Jolie's nakshatra. See, Steve Jobs and Clint Eastwood have the same nakshatra for the Mars, and Angelina Jolie and Martha Stewart have the same nakshatra. Angelina and Martha Stewart are Revati, and Clint Eastwood and Steve Jobs is Ashwini. Now, what we do in these videos with the planets and the signs is I show you a consistent technique that you can use for any planet and any sign. And the technique is very simple. You look for where the planet symbolizes something that's very, very similar to what the sign symbolizes. And once you find that, you assess whether or not the planet and the sign are harmonious about that thing, or whether they're antithetical about that thing. The dissonant resonance reveals what's complex or difficult for the native. The harmonious resonance, on the other hand, indicates what's easy, what comes natural, what's an inherent strength for the native. What I'm teaching you really is the method of how to do astrological interpretation by going down into the engine of the symbolism and comparing the parts. The actual interpretation that you should give is going to be individualized per the individual chart. So if you have person A with the moon in Scorpio and person B with the moon in Scorpio, it's not going to be exactly the same interpretation, because person B's moon might have an aspect from something and person A's moon doesn't, etc., 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 etc. But what I'm showing you in the videos is the backbone of what a planet and a sign symbolizes. And once you understand that backbone, you modify it based on the circumstances, the extraneous circumstances that are affecting an individual chart. So I hope you really like this system, not just this one video, but all the videos that we do on the planets and the signs. We'll do them all. And I hope you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of those. And I hope to see you around soon. Thank you.